First day of the BMW IBSF Bobsleigh World Championships in St. Moritz, and it is Monobob time. We've had the first of our 4 heats, 2 today and 2 tomorrow, and we already have some front runners to conjure with. Hello everybody, welcome back to our coverage. Martin Haven and Greg Cackett ready to watch the action. 19 sleds will go in the second heat after China's Ying Qing crashed out in the first. But Greg, we've got a very interesting battle. We've got 7 sleds covered by 3 tents, all going for what is now the bronze medal position.
Definitely, no, they're all big starters as well. So we're seeing the ones who can combine the big start with the excellent drive. We're seeing them propping the best on the way down with the best speed. Brie had a monster push at the start. We're expecting to see that from her because the girl is a hell of an athlete. But she's really learning to tame these sleds. Her driving's come along, and that new coaching setup is really working for her. I mean, we're looking at Kaillie here now. I mean, like I say, all the time, one of the best drivers, if not the best ever in the field. Pedigree here, gold medals in the past. Definitely the one to beat, but she's nailed on with our probably most improved, I'd say, since the Olympics. 4th place, now into consistent gold medal winning Laura Nolte. You know, like we talked about before, these women are learning to make the transition from the 2-woman to the mono. They're learning to optimize these sleds, and everyone's doing it at their own pace, and Laura is the one who is now setting the pace, which is really cool to see.
Well, in the World Cup races so far this season, Kaillie Humphries has not been off the podium. She's had 3 wins, including 2 in the last 2 weeks in Altenburg. Laura Nolte has had 2 wins and 2 silver medals since she claimed her first win in Lake Placid just before Christmas, really getting her head around these monobobs. So a tie between them, and then from Brianna Walker, 3400s back, down to Kim Kalicki, 6400s back. 3 tenths, 3 runs remaining. It's nearly a mile of ice. You've got to find 1/10 of a second in a mile, or wait for somebody else to give away 1/10 of a second, which is just as likely. So cleaning up your act will get you that 10th. Somebody else making a mistake will give away far more than that. It's going to be very tricky to call a winner until we're heading into the 4th heat, I think, tomorrow morning.
Definitely. And we're looking at, again, as you said, those top 6, 7 sleds. We're looking at push times all in and around the same ballpark. Now, apart from Maureen Zimmer, who I think is going to be a real one to watch over these next few years because her start is outstanding, but everyone's in the low 5.9s to high 5.8s. It's anyone's game, really. They've just got to keep it clean at the top. Get clean around those first kinks. Take that speed down the straightaway. You cannot afford to have any skids. You know, this is where everyone's going to be showing their hand this heat.
Everybody warming up in this underground car park, and Greg was saying, oh yeah, the delights of the underground car park. He's too young to remember that it wasn't an underground car park about 8 years ago. It was just an icy stretch of car park like everything else, so it was even more lethal then. It's not exactly awe-inspiring. You're locked away in the dark when you're warming up, but it is at least safe. You don't get hit by vans for a start.
Well, that's bobsleigh, adapt and overcome.
Well, there is our start list. Kaillie Humphries and Laura Nolte. They will be tied, or they are tied for the lead. They'll be the last 2 sleds to go. And because Laura set the time and Kaillie tied it, they will go with Laura last. Riley Compton gets our second heat of the Women's Bobsleigh World Championships underway for the USA. 19 sleds, 4 heat race, all heats count. Martin Haven and Greg Cackett watching the action trackside in sunny St. Moritz.
So Riley's first heat, she had a 6:35 getaway, so she'll be wanting to improve that. 6:27, she pulled that weight up, but now look at this, look at the skids. She's tapped the wall, she'll get around the second kink now. And again, not the best line, but she's controlling that nicely now, and she's want to drift to that outside wall to get a nice early entrance on the wall. That wall as a corner is really interesting at the moment because in the morning with the grips, you see that spatter out there. As it gets warmer, they haven't got the speed to get the pressure to maintain their position on the wall, so they kind of slip off. So we're going to see people with different levels of experience managing that.
Yeah, the track will be less frosty, more slippery, and harder than ever to control these monobobs, which are skittish at the best of times. Into the signature corner horseshoe, you've got to come cleanly out of that through telephone. Shamrock again, she misses out Shamrock, hits into Devil's Dyke, misses Devil's Dyke. So that's going to cost her speed down through the forest.
Yeah, and that's just lengthening, as we said in the first team, lengthening all those racing lines, so not efficient lines. But we know with Riley, this is her first world champ, she wants to clean up the first run, and this is definitely better than her first. This is definitely better than her first run.
First time in St. Moritz as well, a lot to learn. And a lot at high speed across the line, doing 80 miles an hour, 1:13.92.
So she's 200s better than her first heat, so technically better. So you plot that on the graph, and that's progress. Well done, Riley.
Well, she's had 6 trips down in training in her life.
Yeah.
So that's now 8 trips. So she's added 20 or 33% to her knowledge of this track.
And beautiful braking, right where it needs to be. The coaches don't have to scale Everest to get up and get her. But like you're saying, this is what Nicole Vogt was saying to me too. When they have such few runs here, they have to just pick a game plan, go for it, and hope it works. Yeah. And for these new drivers, it's all a learning experience. And as this track gets faster and more slippery, the monos are going to just struggle that little bit more to control. So again, look at that. That slide off, again, is just scrubbing time too. But hey, 200's better, Riley. Good job.
They don't have the weight of a 2-seat sled, and certainly not the 4-man, so they're harder to control, harder to hold on to the corners. Yeah. They're lighter, don't have so much speed. Well, next up, Linda Weiszewski, one of our 11 World Championship rookies. Riley Compton is another of those. So more than half the field have never competed at the World Championship level. And I think actually probably half the field have never slid in St. Moritz either. And Linda is among those. 14 monobob races since she started in January 21.
Yeah, and Poland, like a lot of nations, are in a rebuilding phase. I mean, they really like ended. They weren't around for a couple of seasons. And that's a big learning curve for Linda. So again, so as we were saying, for people watching at home, trying to understand this top section here, these first 2 kinks, because you're on such a long straightaway, you know, if you're not carrying your speed into these first corners, and certainly into wall, which is now even more tricky to, we'll see her exit here.
It's also very flat, very flat. You're still doing about 30 miles an hour here on very sketchy ice with a very light sled. You don't start to, really build speed until you come out of Horseshoe.
Yeah, she's getting through National Dixon there, so see what line she takes out of Horseshoe, because you want a big diving line so it can spit you out and give you a bit more speed. So she's still better part of 4/10 up on Riley here. I wonder if we're going to start seeing that eke back a bit, because it's not been the best run.
She can keep it clean through these fast 4 right-handers and down the straight into the bottom corners. Yeah. A few taps on the wall. Skids are going to really hurt you more than the taps. Second best speed. Gap was out to 4,400s, comes down to 3,400s. Actually, she did find speed at the bottom over Riley Compton.
Yeah, so now the young athlete on a learning curve, rebuilding a program. First World Championships, you know, it's
Riley Compton 1:13.92 and Linda Weiszewski 1:13.91. So 100th between them on those runs.
And as we see out of the grooves here, as she comes into kink 1.
Steering too much away from the wall.
And there you go.
And actually backs it in there.
Yeah, and that's just, you know, like we said, you know, that's the kiss of death for speed, so...
Well, she's steering it the way you would on a normal artificial track, but the ice here is so cold and so much less grippy that actually she gets the nose in, but the back is just going straight on down the mountain.
That's it.
USA's second sled is that of Nicole Vogt. Second off the top of the mountain again. Despite her experience, particularly in North America, this is actually her first appearance in the Monobob World Championships. Did not come over to Altenburg in 2021.
Yeah, Nicole, she's so great to ask for, you know, information and insight to her approach to this stuff. She really gives me detailed examples of what this is like for her. And, you know, coming from Altenburg, where it's been a lot of driving, to then Moritz, where it's a lot of minimal driving, and then only a few runs, it's a total gear switch to figure out how to navigate this.
Creeping into the lead over Linda Weiszewski. Straightens up the skid down into Horseshoe.
Yeah, so she didn't have a great line going into it, but she managed it well.
Well, everybody's kind of low on Telephone and Shamrock again, because they don't have the weight to carry the speed up the walls. So it's a very different line in the monobob than we'll see this afternoon in the 2-man sleds.
Yeah, so again, all these big right-handers are always looking to come out middle left exit, so they can get a nice early entrance onto each corner. Carry as much speed through, and she's got the best speed.
80.2 miles an hour at the bottom. We will see quicker sleds, 1:13.55. A little slower than her first run.
She manages to retain her position, but see if she can jump up.
She's opened up the margin over the Polish sled from 1200s to 5800s, so that's a big gain.
Yeah, and she, you know, she was 100th off her first heat push, So again, not the exact direction you want to go in. So again, a lot of physical work to get her start up as well. But you know, a lot of confidence building for these new American girls.
Little bit of ice sticking out of the wall. Just snagged the bunker she went by. Nicole Vogt, well, day one done in the Monobob. She'll race in women's bobsleigh next week. And next up is Georgeta Popescu, a woman who has great history on this track. For her, Youth Olympic gold medalist in the Winter Games in 2020. She's also a junior European gold medalist and an under-23 junior world gold medalist in the last couple of seasons. So she's got a very successful junior career under her belt. Now for the first time stepping up into the Lion's Den.
That's it, and a 21 getaway, so she's gone the right direction. She's dropped 400ths off her first heat start, so that's a great start for her there. And as you said, she's been raised in these things. She has been, the Monobob is all she knew to begin with, so we do see her have a
little skid there as well.
Yeah, we do see her have some nice control generally, but like I said, this track is just a totally different beast.
Well, right now she's driving away from Nicole Vogt, 3600s up when she sat down. That's nearly 6/10 now. Little tap into telephone, and again through Shamrock, and squares it up in Devil's Dyke. So still third best speed.
So she'll come off nameless now to these four big right-handers. Now watch her try and keep those exits on the left. It's got a little bit to the right there.
You can see the head whipped about as she flops off.
A little tap for Martina, but second best speed.
So she's going to extend her advantage again over Nicole from 3200s to... No, doesn't, 3200. So the run down is a 1:13.38. A little quicker than her rival Nicole Vogt, but again, not as quick as her first heat, 1:13.24.
So it's definite positives for Georgeta there. Yeah, she should be smiling. Hopefully she's got a look at, you'll see that as you're coming up the braking straight, there's the big screen there, so you can see your start time, and obviously for the other teams here, the brakemen, that's all they're staring at. So she'd have seen her start improve, and I think she'll know that there were definitely some big positives from her drive there too.
Yep.
Not quite as skiddy as the first one, but yeah, sustains her advantage over Nicole, so a good place to be.
See how light this sled is. You take that tap-in horseshoe in a two-man, and certainly in a four-man, you just carry on going. Here, you get fired across the track completely to the wrong side. Next up for Italy is Giada Andreutti. And Andreutti, 27 years old. Started racing monobobs about the same time as Georgeta Popescu. That, of course, did not go into the Youth Olympic Games. Instead, this is her World Championship debut in the Monobob.
So a slightly bigger bump in the first kink there. Just took her on not quite the right line, but she's managed it well. Nice early entrance onto wall. And a good exit too. So this is a nice, quiet top of the track so far for Giada. A little skiddy into sunny there.
A winner last week in Sigulda in Latvia, like Altenberg, the diametric opposite of this. So much driving required just to keep the runners on the ice. And here you've just got to calm yourself right down. See how far back in the sleds the athletes are sitting as well to get weight over the back axle.
She's just taking the slightly wrong line on those corners outside of horseshoe, so she's getting pushed across and tapping, So but she should have plenty in the bank to retain and possibly even move up here.
Yeah, 1 kilometre an hour quicker than Nicole Vogt. Oh, long skid down into Martino, named after the first chairman of the Samarits Bob Club, and out of Portago, Afonso de Portago, Portuguese nobleman who was a bobsledder, Olympic medalist, and a motor racer as well, raced in Grand Prix and then lost his life in Emilia. Another member of the Samarits Bob Club. So Giada Andreutti across the line, 6,500s up from Georgeta Popescu. And what did she have? She had 1,700s in the first heat. There's Simone Battazzo, the coach of the Italians.
Yeah, so she's 700s better. 700. Yeah, 700s better, I think, in this run.
Yep.
And she did improve her start as well, so 100th, so she's going in the right direction for sure.
Well, Simone Battazzo raced in Torino as an Italian athlete and will coach the team into Milan Cortina. So 2 home Olympics, one as an athlete, one as a coach. That's going to be entertaining fun for him. Next up is our second Romanian sled, Andreea Grecu. She started as a brakewoman, then learned to drive two-seat sleds, then learned to drive monobobs, then relearned to drive the new articulated monobob, the ones with a split in the cowl to allow the axle to walk on and off the track. So she's got an awful lot of experience.
So Andreea was my outside bet for a big result here, but she had a pretty poor first heat. So
yeah.
She'll be looking to improve that. Now her starts have been so again, she's got to keep that under control outside of that first king. So her start
much better, 5.89 compared to 5.96, and only a little problem in the first corner. She had every mistake it's possible to make pretty much in the first heat. So as long as she can eradicate some of those, actually she's got a good opportunity to move up. Little tap there into snake 1 and snake 2, and skid down to Sunny.
But if she can minimise these mistakes, you know, these are mistakes that a lot of the girls are going to be making today. So with a start like that, she's got to take that advantage down this track because, and like I say, as a brakeman, it's great to see her pushing like that because that's the Andreea we all know.
And she is a good driver. Nice into Telephone, nice into Shamrock. Gets away without a skid in Devil's Dyke. Only the 4th best speed, but if she keeps it clean down here, she could close up on the fastest sleds.
Much better. She is bleeding speed there.
Yeah. She's hauling it on and off the corners, though. She's working a lot to get the line she wants, just leaning there to get the sled away from the wall. The speed isn't where it needs to be. She's not going to take much out of Giada Andreutti. And in the end, well, when she sat down, she was 0.6 up. She got out to 86 hundredths up and across the line, 16 hundredths advantage. So during the run, she lost 0.7 to Andreutti. And that can easily come just from getting squared up in wall. Well, she's not liked day one, has she?
No, you know, even with that improvement in the start, you have to be bringing that down the track. Now, I thought in general, it seemed like the run was better than her first. And again, that's hard off there. If your head's banging around like that in St. Moritz, then you're not taking the right line. And
you see, you know, she flops off and the rear runners are going completely the wrong direction. Again, that's just pulling on the brakes. Not literally, but metaphorically. First of our two, I beg your pardon, it's not Swiss, it's Slovakia's Viktoria Cernanska. Victoria next up, the Youth Olympic Game silver medalist in 2020 St. Moritz. Cernanska representing Slovakia.
Yeah, so like Popescu, another young talent here, so she's managed that well around these first two kinks.
She was in the first Women's Monobob World Championships in Altenburg 2021 as well. She finished in 18th place, so in 13th place in a very tight little group. The three sleds that she's battling with covered by 14 hundredths of a second.
Yeah, now I'll be interested to see if she can turn this into green numbers because she took her start from a 28 to a 23 there. So again, physically, an excellent improvement. If she can just keep this under control in this slippery track.
So many hazards.
You could see green numbers if she keeps this straight.
Yeah. Second best speed. Got a tap in Devil's Dyke, but not bad. 900s back. She's in the green. Top speed.
And she's going to gain spots here. This is a great experience for the young Slovakian.
Well, her, Mingming and Margot Boch, who come up next, they're separated by 14 hundredths. So if she can find a 10th or 2 in this run, and that is definitely possible here, could be a big advantage for her across the line.
63 hundredths.
Yeah, 1:12.49, so that's 2/10 better than her first heat. That's the sort of change that is going to push her up the order.
Yeah, that is, I mean, great job. She's going to be delighted. Yeah, she's well. Look, 81.5 miles an hour. She dropped her start, she improved her drive, and she's gained spots.
Well, we saw how much Andreea Grecu lost in the second part of the track. She dropped 7/10, and that's speed at the bottom. Victoria picked up 7/10 from speed at the bottom.
Yeah. No, she just controlled the sled better, picked better driving lines, getting herself down the track in as short a distance as possible. And look at the speed difference between Andreea and Victoria, and that just tells the full story of Andrea's first day, sadly.
Well, Viktoria Cernanska could well move up the order now. We have one sled remaining in the competition from China. This is Mingming. She came a little later in the start draw, 15th out of the shed. Again, World Championship debutante. She was 6th in the Winter Games in February 2022. She's had about a dozen monobob races, 2 11th place finishes, her best result. So she's kind of on par in the first run.
Yeah, and sadly we saw Ying go out in the first heat. She'd just done a bit too much. I bumped into her coach, Janice, who said she'd just done a bit too much work out of Horseshoe. The sled reacted to how aggressive she was, and that just took her out too early. So Mingming flying the flag now for China. And she's got the better part of 4/10 in the bank.
Ooh, little skid down into Snake.
But again, we're seeing another athlete drop their start here. And again, that might have something to do with the fact that early in the morning it's frosty. And up on that start, for people at home who don't never seen this track before, it's really sticky, and that makes the sled hard to push, hard to move. So we should really be seeing people improve their start.
We talk about sticky, frosty ice or slippery ice. The temperature does make a big difference, as you'll know if you ever put a wet hand on the side of your freezer compartment at home.
Exactly.
Now losing a little bit of ground back now to Viktoria Cernanska. Her lead was out to 4500s. Needs good speed here. Clean run down through the bottom corners, 3rd best speed, so the gap will come down a little, but she should still have the lead over Cernanska. And she does, but by 1800s.
But I think you could just see subtly there's just a slight drift of the tail into some of these corners at the bottom, and that's just eking away some of the speed, which is why you just see that deficit coming down.
Came down 1200s quicker than Viktoria in that run, so extended her advantage by another 2/3 from 600s out to 1800s. We'll see her on the fringes of the top 10 overnight.
So again, not too bad. I think that was out of Shamrock. We're seeing again wanting to push you into that inside wall. And this is what I'm talking about. The sled's just slightly on the turn there, which is just, you want to be straight as an arrow into these entrances.
Yeah, she was trying to get it turning early. Sliding away a little. Just ahead of Wai Mingming of China, after the first of our 4 heats, was Margot Boch. She has an 800s advantage. Max Robert there at the top of the track in the blue jacket. Legendary French brakeman and coach. And she has Bruno Mijon to count on as well. France's greatest bobsleigh driver.
So Margot with a 6 flat getaway in the first one. She's pushed that really far, but she's maybe too far, and she's gone 200s the other way. Sometimes that can happen.
Just about got away with that.
Yeah, she might have just been guilty of trying too hard there, and that can sometimes yield a less efficient performance. We see that in all sorts of sports.
Leaning there against the cow, just leaning the sled across, just trying to deflect the airflow rather than actually steer.
That's it, and you're seeing, because then they've just not got enough speed going into wall into that first corner, which is that 3 pressure corner, because they haven't got the speed. It just wants to slip down, and push them off.
So the art is not to try and get too high up onto the corner and to try and trickle around like a stream in the bottom of some of these curves.
Well, this is what we're talking about with game plan. You know, everyone's trying to figure out the best lines. That's a big hit out of Shamrock. So she did that in the first heat as well. She hasn't tidied that up too well, but this is good. This is good out of here. She may already have seen her speed drop from those mistakes at the top.
Still 4th best speed though. Again, whipping off some of these corners. Oh, the tap there and the big skid.
Numbers, there we go.
Yeah, so she was 800s up. She'll be about 2/10 back after that huge skid at the line. 1:12.63. Well, that will drop her a couple of spots. There's Bruno Mijon on the left-hand side.
So there's good cop, bad cop in the coaching box there. One round of applause, one keeping it real.
So ties for second with Viktoria Cernanska.
Yeah, and it's interesting. You see, I'd be interested to talk to these girls when it comes to the start and you're trying to improve a start deficit. If you run it a bit too far, how much that affects you into those first kinks here. Are you, because you're switching from brakeman, push, to pilot where it's finesse, and that's a real hard switch to flick. And some pilots, again, are still managing that process. But you can see those taps, the skids, just scrubbing speed.
Remember Nicky Minicello, the world champion, telling me years ago, that was the hardest thing, is to go from being a caged tiger to suddenly being a Zen Buddhist in a split second. It's just not easy. Wai Mingming of China are race leader from a tie between Margot Boch and Viktoria Cernanska, and that little trio of sleds all swapping around in this second heat of the women's Monobob. Waiting at the top of the track is yesterday's birthday girl, Bianca Ribi. as we get into our top 10 sleds. And Greg, this 4-heat racing over 2 days means you've got an awful lot of time to stew between run 2 and run 3. Whether you've had a good day or a bad day, the possibility of overthinking everything is enormous, isn't it?
Oh, definitely. And you know what? It depends on the position you're sitting, your hopes and expectations for the race itself. You know, if you're sitting further back than you wanted to be, well, then it's okay. How do we, you know, it's damage limitation. How much? What do we go for from here? If we were hoping for a medal and we're sitting outside, okay, do we want a top 6? Do we want a top 10? You know, you basically manage your expectations every day, and it's the only way to get through it, really. You know, all your brakemen and everyone has great fun Saturday night repolishing the runners. So a nice late, you know. Oh God, I got facial hair. Oh, I can only dream.
There's a target.
Yeah. So it's you know, it depends on the athlete, it depends on their mentality, and it depends on their management, their coaching team. You know, how the egos, how the expectations are looked after at this time. Because really, you can hang a title on it, you can hang a World Championships on it. It's just another race. You're racing the same people you race week in, week out. You know, it is the ones who can compartmentalize that fact the best.
Well, and the other part of it, of course, is that you're not actually physically on track at the same time as them. So it's not even like a motor race. They can't affect your race. The only person who can affect your race is you. So it is actually just you against the track. And if you can somehow zone everything else out and just focus on you versus the track, then you're a better man than I, Gunga Din. But that's what it's all about. And that's what these athletes do. I mean, that's what the very best can do. They can just clear away all the clutter and all the noise.
Well, again, and it's where we see track and field athletes make such an effective transition, because that's exactly what they do. They're used to running in their own lane.
First day of action in the Women's Monobob World Championships in St. Moritz. And we're into our top 10 runners after the first of 4 heats. It's yesterday's birthday girl, Bianca Ribi. 10th place, 28 hundredths ahead of current leader Mingming from the first run. And in a tight battle with Switzerland's Martina Fontanive, the two of them just 300ths of a second apart.
So Bianca wanted to low her start beautifully round kink 1. So a 6:03 again, so she takes 600ths off her first heat start. So that's brilliant. And this is pretty good. She's going to want to get, see, watch her getting back to the outside wall here, so she gets a nice early entrance onto wall, and now watch her manage these slippy pressures.
Took a very early steer into the first corner. It really worked for her. A little tap out of wall into snake 1 and snake 2.
But this is everyone's struggling with that top part, you know, because as we say, there's not enough speed to deal with the pressures that the corner wants to give you. So, you know, the men, the women, 2-man, 4-man, mono, they're all managing that the best they can. And she want to get spat out here, little late off, which is giving her the tap on telephone.
Horseshoe tap there as well, and that's taken speed out of the sled just when she's trying to build it. Was 27 hundredths up, went out to 35 hundredths. Now she's finding more speed.
Yeah, she's bringing it back here, I think. And again, Ribi rated in the Canadian program as a real natural talent. She's got a real gift with the D-rings. Look at this. This is great. Second speed.
Yeah.
So
she's used to high speed from Whistler. Won the World Cup season opener in Whistler. 1:12.25, 1:12.35 first heat. So she finds another 10th of a second.
Yeah, I think Olympic champion Justin Cripps on the right there, appreciating what he's just seen from his young charge here.
Yeah.
As we said in the first heat, Bianca's celebrating a job offer from the fire service back home in Canada, which is a big deal for those guys. It's a big job, and it's a difficult thing to get into. So,
former slider Helen Upperton, who's also part of the Canadian Fire Service, she'll be able to offer some help and advice there. But big hit into telephone, and that throws her off into Shamrock. Now, that's probably a good 10th of a second right there, and that multiplies all the way down the track as well. Well, here is the sled that Bianca Ribi was battling against, Martina Fontanive. So the Swiss had just 300ths in hand from the first heat.
So Martina with a 6:09 getaway, so we'll see. No, that's good, that's good. And an 0.2, so again, we're seeing people all pulling this start down. That should happen as this track heats up. And she's got the best velocity out at the start as well. So good from Martina there. Now she's already cleared this up. So her first heat, she was a little bit sloppy out the top there, which you wouldn't expect to see from a Swiss slider. And but she found speed at the bottom.
Little skid there, down out of that wall into snake.
She is going back here, so this will be interesting to see.
Oh, and a skid there as well. She hits the exit of Monty's Bolts, that junior start there on the run down to Horseshoe. Now, tidy out a horseshoe. This is where you'll start to rebuild the speed. There she is, 100.5, but a tap again into Devil's Dyke.
She won a kiss. So here we go. The first of these big right-handers. She does have #1 speed, so we might see her coming back here. If she keeps this clean and she's rapid into the speed trap into Martineau, these bottom 2 corners, we should see green numbers.
Yeah, she can
#1
find
is
a
going to be
quarter of a
close.
second over Bianca Ribi.
Is Ribi going to get a spot? No, 100.
Oh, 100, goodness me.
Tomorrow.
Well, she led by 300s after the first heat. Bianca Ribi came down 200s quicker, so Martina, well, so far in skeleton, we've had a couple of hundredths stories. The women's skeleton gold medal decided by 100th over 4 1,650-meter runs, 1,850-meter runs, I beg your pardon. And the bronze in the men's decided by 100th as well.
Yeah, and this is what, I mean, for the spectators and for us commentating, this is what we want to see, right? It's that sort of close racing over this length of ice, you know, with all the things that can go right and go wrong in this track, all the chaos of bobsleigh coming down to within hundredths or dead heats. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, 2 miles of ice and 100th of a second between them. That's motor racing. That's that close. Next up, Kim Kalicki for Germany. And Kalicki, 1 World Cup medal in women's monobob, has yet to really get a head around this. And you'd have said that at the beginning of the season about her teammate Lara Nolte, just frustrated by the inability to just find what the sled needs. That happened for Nolte in Lake Placid, and she's never looked back. And when the penny drops for Kalicki, if it does, then again, she's too good to be back for too long.
Definitely, you know, the former 100-meter sprinter equals her first start time there, so 5:99 twice out of the traps. So she holds her advantage at the start. And as you said, like, Kim is a great pilot. You know, she's got numerous medals in the 2-woman sled. She's just figuring out this transition, figuring out this mono. As she says to me, you know, frequently, she's still figuring out whether she's friends with it.
Yeah.
But it's only she's only 1 performance away from being best mate. So this is good here. It was a little dodgy at the top.
Opening up a big advantage at the moment over Martina Fontanive.
She's got spat out of horseshoe there, 8200, so she's really starting to motor. There's that tap out of Shamrock.
It
Not
was
too much of a skid.
Was 3700s from the first heat. She's more than doubling that. She might triple that. 111.3. First time we've seen 111 in the forest.
There we go. #1 speed. She's flying.
Over 70 miles an hour and accelerating hard. The wind noise really builds up down at this lower pass of the track. 82.5 miles an hour. Kim Kalicki will race away from Martina Fontanive. A second clear over 2 runs.
Leopold there appreciating that.
Well, that was 1900ths of a second better than her first heat. It's not going to throw her into the medals, but she's in that group of 6 sleds covered by 3 tenths, and she has already found nearly 2 tenths, so that could put her right on the cusp.
Yeah, and these next sleds we've got coming up from Cynthia onwards have all been the outstanding starters as well. So we're going to see, and Melanie Hasler with the home ice advantage.
Yeah, she's still giving the sled the side eye a little bit, isn't she?
Yeah.
She's not sure that she wants to wrestle this tiger too long. Well, we talked about Cynthia Appiah, 3rd fastest start for her, a 5:89, so a 10th quicker than Kalicki. And if you join those 2 starts together, if she does the same, that's 2 tenths of a second in hand before you even start driving. And that's a huge advantage.
You see a low 80 here, I think. Woo, there it is. Start record, Cynthia. So Cynthia was the one who pushed a 5:80 along with Lana Myers-Taylor last year. Obviously, this track is carved every year, so the start changes subtly. Sometimes it'll be slightly flatter, sometimes with slightly more of a drop-off. So we'll always see a new start record every year. But hey, Cynthia's going the right way about boosting her advantage here. You know, she was a bronze medalist in the World Series here last year. She can win medals on this track. She's just got to keep this tidy, keep it clean.
Well, she finished 5th in Altenburg, which is a very tough driver's track, so she knows she's got the skill to do it. Nice run down into Horseshoe, nice line as well. Gets a good exit out of Telephone. Here we go.
Second best speed, that's not good out of Shamrock. So through Devil's Dyke and Nameless, she's got to carry as much speed into these big right-handers. She's only 3rd best, so she is bleeding.
Yep. She had 300s over Kalicki. She's not going to have anything. She should drop into the red here, I think, right at the end of the run.
Second best speed is going to be close.
Could be tied. At the line, Kalicki or Appiah, 800s up, so she's extended her advantage, found another 500s over Kim Kalicki. Lyndon Rush on the left, Justin Cripps on the right. Cripps with a brand new hat he's bought in the shop at the top of the track here.
Oh, that must be that Olympic champion money.
Yeah,
You can barely afford a cup of tea here.
Celebrating 125 years of the track. Yeah, 8-0, that's what she wanted to hear.
And I mean, I've talked before, every time I talk about Cynthia, I talk about, you know, the physical phenom that she is. This girl lifts more than I do. She's an insane athlete. And again, as we've seen, the start track has warmed up a little bit. So a 580 we always knew was going to be on the cards there. So again, with it warming up, what's you know, young Maureen Zimmer going to knock out here? Because so you can see that Shamrock wants to push them into that inside wall.
Yeah.
But hey, when you've got a start like that, that's a lot of speed to give away.
It is a lot of speed.
Great job.
Well, next up is our junior world champion in women's monobob and women's bobsleigh, Maureen Zimmer. 600ths of a second in hand over Cynthia Appiah.
Now watch the start. Are we going to see a sub 5.8?
Well, we should do. She started 581. Look at that rock back and then driving forward through the sled.
Look at the turn.
Real good brakeman style.
Yeah, the rate.
Oh, hits the wall.
82, okay. So that shows the quality of what Cynthia just did. And again, the inexperience of Maureen there.
But look how quickly she reacted to that contact. There was no further skidding and sliding. She's really got the sled under control. Dropped 600s to Cynthia Appiah. That will multiply, probably down to horseshoe. Little flop there off of wall as well.
Yeah, so the top of her track has not been what she's wanted here, but if she can find the right lines as we go into horseshoe, and if she can get a nice exit out of horseshoe and get spat into telephone and Shamrock, that's nice. There we go, she's back to 300s.
Ooh,
hey,
skidding away. Oh, and again, more trouble. This is the run she didn't need to come back out of training to haunt her.
Yeah, she's gone the other way now. That's such a shame, because she was making tracks on Cynthia there. She was coming back.
Double junior world champion. She's won 1 Europa Cup race this year. She's been on the podium 5 out of 6 starts.
Yeah, and that's just wiped her speed.
Yeah. Well, she's going to be a 10th down, maybe 2 tenths down at the line. It is 2 tenths down.
On the nose, yeah. It's okay, little inexperience.
Yep. Well, she's got plenty of time to learn. She does not know this track.
Well, she's in the right federation to learn as well.
Yep.
These guys will know how to get the best out of an athletic talent like this, because when you've got a start like that, you just got to teach these kids to drive. So she's just not going to the D-rings. Again, and that tap there. I mean, she was doing, so even with that, at the top of the track here, she was making tracks back on Cynthia.
Yep.
And then she had a sloppy portion, which just wiped that out. So that was a real shame. So there are definite positives in this.
Tibanis Fry for Switzerland's Melanie Hasler. Maureen Zimmer not happy with her second run. She's got 2 more to go tomorrow. Cynthia Appiah leads as we get to our final 5 sleds, and Switzerland's best hope for a medal in this competition is young Melanie Hasler.
Oh, and that is and she's improved her start, but again, has she mitigated against that with a bit of a sloppy straight there, but she's kept under control now. You saw Nadia Pasternak, a brake woman, cheering for her there, and Melly actually wants to shout out Nadia. Apparently, Nadia's really been picking up the slack for her, really supporting her well. So, you know, for these monobob pilots, they wouldn't be able to do this without their brake women. The brake women.
Lonely Bob, as it was referred to a couple of seasons ago, because, yeah, you don't have your teammate with you, your kind of best buddy with you, so it does feel quite isolating. Nice run down out of Nash and Dixon into horseshoe. Quite a lot of height, but she lands it nicely.
And if she can find some Swiss lines down here, I think that top portion of the track is just going to have killed her speed here.
Well, second best speed so far. Here we go.
Coming back. Here we go.
Sleds are the same as everybody else. They don't have any material advantage here, but she does know how to drive St. Moritz.
She's going to second best speed to something.
It's going to
the
be
heat out of
close.
it there, but it's going to be definitely close to the line.
But she's going to drop a couple of spots.
500's okay.
Yeah, there we
That's right
go.
on.
She found it at the bottom, 1:11.81.
All to play for day 2.
Well, that was a 10th quicker than Maureen Zimmer, but a 1:11.65 from Cynthia Appiah is the best run of the second heat so far. So Appiah leads with 4 to go.
You see Nadia in the sunglasses, top right of the screen there, screaming for her teammate. Again, not the most efficient low, but there, that drift around the top there. I mean, that's, you know, if you're going to say there's your 500s.
Well, any one of these is worth a lot more than that in terms of time lost. So another day to tidy it all up. A little sheepish grin there from Melanie Hasler. Well, she's in second, so she'll be 6th place at least overnight. Fast 4 still to go. Lisa Buckwitz with only a 0.2 of a second advantage over Cynthia Appiah. On many shorter tracks, when you're only running for 50 seconds, that's a much bigger time than when you're running here for 70+ seconds. 5:77, goodness me.
An Olympic champion as a break woman in 2018. This girl has got wheels. She moves these sleds so well.
Apparently can still push and can drive as well. Let's see if Lisa can drive herself into the medals. That's given her every opportunity. Little bump out of wall, but not bad at all. Straight down into Sunny.
Yeah, she's holding her advantage here. This is nice. She got some love taps on that sled from Altenberg. She didn't have the best time there in the mono.
No, didn't race last week either in the 2-man sled, so just taking a little bit of time to rest and recuperate before St. Moritz. The World Championships are the big focus. Best speed of all. She is pulling away from Cynthia Appiah.
And those sorts of performance decisions, you know, clearly bearing fruit here. This is the experience of the German Federation as well, managing their athletes well. She's just had a booming start record. And look at this, #1 speed. She's going to...
First time ever in the World Championships that Lisa Buckwitz has been able to see where she's going, and a new track record. That is an exceptionally good drive. That is really good from Lisa Buckwitz. Talked to René Spies about it, and I said, presumably she's not going in the 2-seat sled because of that crash. He said, yeah, there's just no point. It doesn't make any difference. World Championships for her are going to be much more important. And that's his coaching ability. Just protect your athletes. Look after their well-being.
Well, when you've got such talents like this in the German program, you know, that's your #1 priority.
And look at her panting like a racehorse. The altitude is
Everyone
a killer.
Feels it.
And that start record, oh my goodness.
Liebe Grüße nach Hause.
She can just about breathe. 5:77 start. 3 to go. And into the top 3 with Brianna Walker had just 0.07 of a second in hand over Lisa Buckwitz. Buckwitz starting some 0.04 faster in the first heat. And to keep that level, and Brianna has to get down from a 5.90 to a 5.81. That is a 1/10 of a second faster, pretty much. That's going to be tough. Gets in, gets down, little wriggle of the steering. Nice first corner, 5.87, so she loses a 1/10 to Lisa Buckwitz. And that puts her behind the 8 ball to start with. Look how low she's sitting in the sled. Sitting back, sitting low, reclined driving position. Very different from the 2-seat sled. To get the weight back over the rear axle to stop it slithering around too much. 0.05 of a second back. 400s back. She's bringing it back to Buckwitz. Now, Horseshoe will decide this run for her. Nice line. Oh, silent exit. Nice stuff from Brianna Walker. Drifts away, no touch there. Best speed of all. Here we go. Lisa Buckwitz has set a new track record. Brianna Walker pretty much needs a new track record to take the lead. She's got the best speed of all through the forest. Quicker than Buckwitz.
This is beautiful from Brie.
Nice run.
Speed.
Tiny little speed. And she's not going to be ahead at the line. 1,300s back. Well, she was 2/10 slower than Brianna Walker. There's her coach, Pierre Luders. She could still be in medal contention here. But she found 3/10, 3,500s, in fact, on her first heat. Some of which will be that much tidier run into Kink 1. And she had such a good exit from Horseshoe as well.
Nice high line. She's just taking the advantage of that high line. It's just spitting her out, taking all that speed through.
Here, this is where the lead went away. Little drift and a tap on the wall seems so insignificant. We always say that high-speed touches don't hurt you as much as low-speed ones. Here, that makes a liar of us because you lose so much down at the bottom if you skid or tap. We had 2 sleds tied to the 100th of a second over 1,852 meters of ice in our first heat. And let's see if we break that tie or whether they're going to have to go and dig in the drawer for a spare gold medal for tomorrow in the women's monobob. The Olympic and world champion Kaillie Humphries goes first.
And an 89 getaway in the first. Now, that's uncharacteristic Kaillie, but she equals her start from the first one. So again, we're seeing a resurgent Kaillie Humphries at the start in these last couple of years. And she's going to need everything here, because Lisa had an amazing run, but let's not forget Lara's run in the first one was beautifully driven. So that's a skid off the corner. So again,
skid off wall. Again, the track is different from how it was in the first heat, so you have to adapt all the way through, but you only learn that as you make the mistakes.
Yeah, she's held her advantage there. 2600s in the green. So
it's
she gets
not
out of
yet about Lisa Buckwitz, it's about Lara Nolte.
Yeah.
So you've got a double women's bobsleigh champion and monobob Olympic champion versus the current women's bobsleigh Olympic champion.
Yeah, and this is this part of the track as well. You'd expect to see Kaillie's experience, Kaillie's skill really come to the fore. She knows how to shoot these straights. Look at that. Into Martineau, second best speed.
Yeah, Lisa Buckwitz had the best at the bottom.
Gap. Yeah.
Well, the gap over Lisa is not going to be much, 2200s.
Okay, she just about held that. Some slightly skiddy moments up the top there.
Kaillie just 100th quicker on that run than Brianna Walker. So Lisa Buckwitz has found 2/10 on everybody with that second heat. Has the penny finally dropped in monobob for Lisa Buckwitz?
Well, again, when you've got a start like that, 5.77, you're putting 300s on Cynthia Appiah. You're giving yourself all the advantage. And she drove beautifully. She drove really well. Now, Kaillie will, day 2, she'll be wanting to tidy this up. This is not classic Kaillie Humphries.
No,
she's still sitting at the top, so we'll see what Nolte's doing. As you said, Lisa's not to worry about just yet.
Track's getting slicker.
The danger woman for Kaillie.
Yeah, exactly. Track is getting slicker. Kaillie Humphries leads Lisa Buckwitz by 2200s. Brianna Walker in third place by 35. And Lara Nolte, our Olympic bobsleigh champion, won in Lake Placid in the monobob the very first time, won in Winterberg, and then silver behind Kaillie in both races in Altenburg last couple of weeks.
That's it, too. Ooh, and an 84, huge improvement. That's the start improvement Kaillie would have wanted to make.
And
Lara's got that advantage.
Yeah, tidier kink one as well. But ducks her head down, just gets the line, ducks ahead, ducks ahead. She moves a lot in the sled, Lara Nolte, looking around the cow, leaning into wall. Ooh, gets the tap away into snake.
Again, similar to Kaillie there. Only 800's the advantage.
Yep. She had 500s from the start, and that is still playing out. Clean out of Nash and Dixon down to Horseshoe.
Now she's going to want to be clean as a whistle, get this early height to shoot straight out, 1600s.
We're both listening there for the tap that never came. Gets squared up into Devil's Dyke.
She's got #1 speed here, so she's carrying this. And into these big right-handers now. Okay, she's improving her advantage. She's going to pull away here.
Track record is going to leave clear air between her and Kaillie Humphries. Does she get it?
Here she goes.
Looking for a 1:11.03 to go faster than everybody. Best speed of all.
How much has she got on Kaillie?
Oh, that is a
3/10.
Yeah, that is a big step forward for Lara Nolte. 1:10.96, another new track record.
And there's the Nolte Army. Characteristic pink there. I'm sure her dad's delighted to be wearing a pink hat.
I'm sure he absolutely is. Boys can wear pink, as we know.
I tell you what, I mean, we say it all the time, but we are really seeing possibly the most improved pilot in terms of managing this sled.
And the emergence of, I mean, she's already Olympic champion, the emergence of a really huge bobsledding star for Germany.
And she said before this, she didn't know, saying hello to everyone at home, she didn't know what to expect going into this, and hey,
well, nobody knew what to expect going into this. There's been one Olympic championship, one world championship in women's monobob, and these sleds are still a work in progress for most of our athletes. Lara Nolte tied with Kaillie Humphries in the first heat, but opened up more than a quarter of a second over the world and Olympic champion in monobob to take the overnight lead. Humphries lies in second, Lisa Buckwitz half a second back in third, and then Brianna Walker leading the chasing pack. But Lara Nolte, well, the pink and the driving remind me so much of Sandra Kyriasis, one of the great German bobsledders of all time. I think Lara Nolte could well end up doing maybe even what Francesco Frugic has done, which is eclipsing all previous records in her side of the sport. There is the gap over Kaillie. Lisa Buckwitz in third. Don't forget, they've got nearly 2 miles of ice to sort this out again tomorrow. The conditions will be different again tomorrow in run 1 and in run 2. And our 19 sleds will go back with the leader first off, and Riley Compton getting the best of the warming conditions. Thanks for joining us for this morning's action. We will be back with the 2-man this afternoon. That starts at 1300 local, 1200 GMT for the IBSF TV crew and Greg Cackett. I'm Martin Having saying thank you for joining us. We'll see you then. Don't go away.